So you're looking at coastal Virginia and you need space. You need some acreage. You don't want to be crammed up against those neighbors. Maybe you have animals, horses, whatever, chickens, and you want room to be able to put all that stuff in there. What are my options in Hampton Roads or coastal Virginia? We're going to talk about all that and more today on the Living in Coastal Virginia channel. You see that bug? You saw that bug, didn't you? So when we're looking at space, a couple things you need to pay attention to when it comes to coastal Virginia. You've got space in some of the older neighborhoods because they're established or they're higher end, and so you can get an acre or more. But if you're wanting for, be able to have like horses and things like that, you're probably going to be looking at South Virginia Beach, South Chesapeake, Suffolk, maybe out in Smithfield or Carrollton. And another thing to note, if you're going to be moving into these areas, if it's not in a well-established neighborhood, or if it's further and further away from like major industrial or commercial spaces, you probably are going to have well and septic, and you need to budget for those additional costs. Lastly, to mention before we jump into the houses is if you're up against water, make sure that if you are in a flood zone that the actual physical property itself may or may not be in that flood zone. If there is, you want to get a flood elevation certificate and double check to see what those flood insurance costs are going to be. So the first house that we're going to be looking at is out in Smithfield, and it's listed right around $325,000. Now, depending on what your budget looks like, this could be a screamer of a deal. You get a full acre. You're only about 6 minutes drive to downtown Smithfield, which has this really cool old world, old town vibe where you have like one row after shop after another. They have a restaurant on the water with a small yacht club there, and you get definitely a country feel. If you're looking at the map, you're going to see that it's surrounded by farmland, but you've got a cool little house with plenty of space, and it's kind of cute inside. So when I look through the photos here, I can see like, it's just a little Cape Cod. It looks like inside the kitchen's actually quite cute. They put some money into the kitchen, into the flooring at this price point. This is great. You've got a little island where you can, have dinner. You've got an actual, laundry room that you get to see through. Again, 1 acre or more. The carpet looks like it's in decent shape. I can't stand popcorn ceilings, but that's my feel. I just absolutely hate popcorn ceilings. But to have molding at this price point, crown molding is actually not bad. I'm looking at the master bathroom. You've got a soaking tub as well as a shower. And again, at $325, this is pretty daggone fantastic. You can see they put a little bit of money into the flooring here. The bathroom hallway is pretty normal. Again, it's not bad. The roof looks good. The brick skirt looks good. Directly across the road, this has across from a farm. So you're gonna be driving down a farm, basically lane. You have fields on one side, and on the right side is actual like trees, and then the road goes in a little bit, so you're actually quite isolated. So not only do you get a full acre here at $325, this is pretty much a steal. And that totally makes sense because this thing was under contract within the first few days of being on the market. This next house is in South Chesapeake. It's in this cool little, I want to call it a pocket neighborhood, but it's not really a pocket. It's about 80 to 90 homes, and you're gonna see that it was built in like the 80s, which kind of makes sense. What someone probably did is they sold off a chunk of farmland, and a developer came down there and built maybe like 12 different floor plans throughout this little neighborhood back in the 80s. There's new construction going on in the area, which is kind of bringing the price points up. But at $559,000, 3 bedrooms, 3 full baths, 3,600 square feet, it's really interesting that you get this much square footage, but you only get 3 bedrooms. You'll see with the pictures inside that it's just super duper spacious. Again, 80s architecture is not really my cup of tea. You do get 3 acres. Nearly every lot in this neighborhood is 2 to 3 acres. You get a lot of brick front, plenty of space in the backyard. If you're gonna sell a $500,000 house, why don't you wait until the proper timing of lighting? Maybe this is just because Sean and I do videography all the time, but if you're gonna pay somebody to sell a $500,000 home, right? That's basically a $15,000 payday, minus taxes and blah, blah, blah. But these are garbage photos, and I would be embarrassed to put these up. Moving on. So foyer brick on the actual foyer on the ground, which means it's probably on a slab. Absolutely fantastic. I do love these open stair concepts here. You can say, oh man, virtual staging. I hate it so much. But, obviously they're trying to sell the house. There you go. Virtual staging, not virtual staging. Virtual staging, not virtual staging. Just garbage. Lots and lots of space. Like I said, 3,600 square feet with 3 bedrooms, plenty of room. I am so very glad that we got rid of these like fake crystal and brass lighting fixtures. It's like, come on, man, quit trying to front that you have money. It drives me crazy. Now, I actually like old trim with some of the darker wood. It doesn't bother me all that much, especially if it's tastefully decorated. Kitchen, nothing really to write home about. Could use definitely a renovation. 559. If this house was fully renovated, it'd probably sell in the 650, 700 range pretty easily. But this is straight out of the 80s. Again, master bedroom with the virtual staging drives me absolutely bonkers. Here's another one of my pet peeves, just something I find hilarious, is when they have any type of water feature, like a sink or even a tub, right next to carpet. Like, please set yourself up for mold problems. Another thing that I just find absolutely hilarious, again, at this price point, is look how big this bathroom is, and then you have this weird standalone toilet in the corner. Come on, encapsulate that thing. Create the water closet. People need to poop in peace. Again, 3 acres with a built-in pool, lots of space, privacy in southern Chesapeake. It's kind of gonna be hard to beat this at 550 grand. This third one is listed at $726,425. I find that absolutely hilarious. It probably is because it's actually a new construction and someone actually locked it down under contract immediately and it got priced up because of those options. But I find it absolutely hilarious when agents will list it to 425 bucks. It's like, really, you nailed the pricing so good, you're down to the $5. 4 bedrooms, 3 baths, 3,000 square feet. The photos in here are absolutely gorgeous. This is right on the outskirts of Lagomar, which is kind of halfway down into Virginia Beach. It's gonna be super cool. You're not gonna get as much of a neighborhood vibe. You're gonna get like this off-street kind of vibe here, but you do get a little bit over an acre, which means you have space and you don't really get to see your neighbors. You're only about 15 minutes from kind of like Sandbridge area and really only about 15, 20 minutes to the Virginia Beach oceanfront. 20-ish minutes from Hilltop, which is some of the best, shopping in all of Hampton Roads. Like I said, this is new construction, and one of the benefits here is you do get space and you're on city water and sewer, which means you don't have to worry about septic and well costs or maintaining those. It's all on the city for those to be taken care of. One of the things I definitely want to point out here is, real estate agents are always nervous about talking about crime statistics or school districts. I will say particularly that people reach out for this area near Lagomar because the crime is extremely low, reported crime, and then the school districts are highly sought after. I've had 3 or 4 clients of mine that have moved out of one area and specifically sought out that neighborhood in particular. As you can see, there's more virtual staging here. This one's done a little bit better than the last one, but it's still virtual staging. I love the modern staircase and how bright and open it is, and it feels modern. The light fixtures they use for the dining room area, that master bedroom is absolutely enormous. One of the things I get feedback all the time is that rooms feel smaller in person because most of the photos online are taken with a fisheye lens or a wide eye lens. But one of the things you can tell specifically about this master bedroom is the size of the ceiling fan in comparison. That's a normal size ceiling fan. This room is actually huge. Again, I'm a big fan of these modern windows throughout, brings in tons of natural light. The thing I really like about the kitchen is that the island is dark, but with a marble countertop, and then you have plenty of modern cabinetry around it with these modern pendulum lights over the kind of the island, and then gas cooking, man. That's one of my favorite ways to cook. I don't know if I could ever go back to electric. So this next one sold just recently, just under $1 million, $950,000. One of the big benefits is the area. This is a well-established old area of Virginia Beach. The elementary school people specifically seek out this area on the regular. I've had several clients, again, specifically seek out to move into that area. And there's a ton of houses on the water. Now, there's kind of a barrier to entry into this neighborhood, probably in the $400,000 or $500,000 range. This one sold at $950,000 because it's on the water. The only downside is that water is not what I would call true water access. You'll see on the map, so it's on the water, but you're really only gonna be able to drop in a kayak or a paddle board. Hopefully you can talk to one of your neighbors if you actually want to get access to the regular water to get into the entryways. The inlets are basically the bay and the river. 2 main benefits here: no flood insurance for this area. It's not in a flood zone. And again, you're on city water and sewer, so you don't have to really worry about those expenses. But let's take a look at a few of the photos. Again, this house was built in the 80s, so this style of architecture is just not for me. Doesn't tickle my fancy, as they would say. But this lot is absolutely enormous. You've got a built-in pool. It's absolutely beautiful. You can see there is a ton of old growth trees here. This is one of the main benefits. Actually, let me show you on Google Maps. If I go over here, I click satellite and I zoom out here, right? You can see the areas that are industrial, all this kind of gray area. Then you can see these areas that have less tree coverage. You can see the areas that have these are obvious that these are farms and newer developments and all the green. But if you go up here into this older section of Virginia Beach, you can see both Great Neck, which is kind of this area, and Little Neck in particular, this area right here along North End, and then obviously First Landing State Park, super duper green because these were some of the first established neighborhoods and they have tons of old growth trees. You can see on this photo what I mean by not really having true access. There is just a little piece of land that is blocking off the quote unquote water view or the water access that you have to the main section where you could drop a boat in. So unfortunate, but still gorgeous, still has amazing views. You got another open staircase. I am a fan of these. I just like the look of it. Obviously, if you have kids or young ones, you're probably concerned that they're gonna slide through the cracks and fall through. When I was tiny, my grandmother had a house like this and we actually used to play in it. Now you can see inside that it looks like the 80s for the most part. Obviously, if you were to go in and renovate this house would probably sell for $200,000, $300,000, or even $400,000 more. But you know, a lot of these people who are moving out of these homes have no desire in doing large renovations before they move out. They probably lived there. This is a very low turnover area, which means that people tend to move in there and stay for 10, 15, sometimes even 20 years. It's just not common for people to do large scale renovations before they move out. Like the hangout or the den area has the wood panel walls. Again, not my cup of tea, don't really like that. But again, they're not gonna go through and do major renovations before they sell a house. Your main draw here is that you're deep within one of a very highly sought after, quiet, established neighborhoods, lots of old growth trees. Most of the lots are very, very big as soon as you get close to the water, and people seek out this area specifically for the schools. This next one sold at $1.1 million. It's sitting on just about 3 acres. It's got a pool. You can actually allowed to have horses here. It's enormous and probably gives you a really good indication of something that maybe needs a little bit of love. If you're trying to get into that point to entry, for a lot of folks, 1 million is kind of that barrier to entry point that they're trying to get into with this much space and this big of a home. Many people look in South Chesapeake because it tends to be a little bit cheaper than Virginia Beach. The more west that you move into like Suffolk or Franklin, you can get as much land, but it's gonna get cheaper the further inland that you move. Obviously that makes sense, you're getting farther and further away from the beach. This house is on septic and well, so that's something that you'll need to account for in cost. I believe the specific property they had already kind of did a recent inspection and updated it. But when it comes to space and the ability to have horses on the property, this is pretty cool. Now looking through the photos, I immediately noticed how terrible the carpet was in here. So I was looking through it and I noticed immediately in the notes that they were offering a $10,000 carpet allowance and needed. I can see down here the carpet's like bundling up a pilling. If I was the agent here, I would have told them to pay the $800 or $1,000 to have a carpet guy come through and at least tighten it up. It would make the photos look at least a lot better. This is a perfect example of a house that at $1 million is still kind of dated inside. I cannot tell you, Sean, how many times I've seen, do you know the lights in the kitchen that's like a box light? It's like they built it out. I hate the look of those. I hate them so much. I don't see how they were popular, and I just think it's the ugliest thing ever. Kitchen is absolutely enormous. You can see that they have a Wolf and Viking like appliance ranges, so they've definitely spent a dime or a mint on those to have those installed. And at this price point, maybe it was popular during the time, but these Korean countertops, again, just not my cup of tea. I do not like the look of them. And if you're gonna spend $1 million on a house, I just would expect something a little bit nicer. Primary bathroom and primary suite is absolutely huge. I'm looking now, I'm seeing that you've got a enormous soaking tub. I'm looking at these cabinets that are used in the master bedroom. These are builder grade stock cabinets. Nothing all that impressive. If you were to go through, sand these down, paint them, and put on some new hardware, it would make it look a lot better. The beauty here is that you have a lot of the similar homes that surround. It's gonna help with resale value. If you were to go in here and do a little bit of work, this house would be worth a lot more. But you get 3 full acres that you can have horses on, you get a pool, plenty of space with your neighbors not being crammed up right next to you. And it sold just over $1 million, which this sold, I believe, in like less than 30 days. That's absolutely fantastic. I hope this was super helpful. I'm gonna do a couple of series of these exploring different types of properties at different price points all throughout coastal Virginia. Till next time, see you later. You see him, right? Got him.